health, social health, it undercuts all of those things, and without it we struggle to function on a day-to-day basis. Now, the sound isn't working, but I had, with permission, a little video from Joe Wicks here, which is talking about sleep and how important it is to him. And in a nutshell, what he talks about is the fact that even after just a couple of days without sleep, he loses interest in working out, which is both a hobby and a career for him. He can't be bothered cooking decent meals, he's irritable, he loses his temper with his partner, with his children, with his colleagues. And that's really just the tip of the iceberg. That's when we are talking about a couple of nights lost sleep. Now, I know myself, if I decide to have one late night, one movie that goes on till 1 a.m, or one night where I decide to pretend I'm young again and go out until 3 o'clock in the morning, it takes me 5 days to recover, and woe, anyone that gets in my pants in those 4 days, because I am not necessarily very pleasant to be around. Oh no, it's now going to... I don't know how to get to the next slide because it wants to play the video. Maybe if they press pause. More about sleep deprivation. So when we talk about sleep deprivation, we're talking about that sort of chronic sleep debt that we accrue. And there have been loads of studies done into this, and one of the interesting ones was done with people that were held at Guantanamo Bay. And even just having less than 6 hours sleep a night, they saw detrimental effects to their health and their well-being. And when we talk about sleep deprivation, it is a form of torture, and you don't have to be held in a stressed position in a cold, dark room to experience that. If any of you have been in the same house as a child or have a baby of your own, then you are likely to have experienced that torture. Some of our clients come to us and they may have had, I don't know what's going on. I'll just keep talking. They may be surviving on 4 hours sleep a night, and we're talking awake 45 minutes throughout the night, all throughout the night, listening to babies screaming and crying, and then they are expected to go into work and perform to the best of their ability the next day. So in terms of the impact that that has on their health, when we're talking about physical health, this actually starts to have real consequences. So it increases our chance of diabetes because the lack of sleep alters the way that our bodies deal with glucose. It increases the chances of obesity because we start to produce more hunger hormones when we're overtired, and it also increases our risks of heart disease because the chemicals that come in our body when we're sleep deprived, they cause inflammation around the heart, they increase our blood pressure, and so on. In terms of our mental health, we have clients come to us, saying, I'm struggling a little bit, and that's sort of best case scenario. We have people who come to us and say, I'm suicidal, I'm thinking about harming my child, I've got postnatal depression, and a lot of that is linked to the lack of sleep. And then the social health. So if you are tired, and a lot of companies have got great benefits these days, and they will include things like we go to the pub on a Friday night, or we bring beers in, or we do great parties at Christmas or in the summer. If you're sleep deprived, then the last thing you're going to want to do is go and make small talk with loads of people that you've been in work with all day. You just want to go home and get into bed. And even if you wanted to go, who's going to babysit for you when you've got a child that's going to scream all night and not cry? Okay. Keep going. So we'll just get caught up. Keep going. Yeah. One more. Okay. It's fine, just do that. So, I'm losing my train of thought here. This is a test, isn't it? Good job I've had my 8 hours sleep last night. So yeah, so it impacts on our social health, and they're sort of big events, and you might think, well, that doesn't matter too much, but in terms of just simple relationship building, people that are tired, they don't want to go into work and be friendly, they're irritable, they're short-tempered, and that kind of thing. We have a lot of people that come to us and say, I literally get up in the morning, sort my child out, go to work, come home, and then it's survival mode. We put the kids in bed. We, as a couple, we are like ships that cross in the night. One of us looks after the child, the other one cooks dinner, we swap, and we go to bed then because we know that the rest of the night is going to be disrupted. So people are just surviving. And again, you might be sitting here thinking that doesn't really apply to me, but currently about 36% of the workforce have children under the age of 8. And typically, for 54% of parents, their children don't sleep well until they are about 4 to 6 years old. And by well, we mean a 12-hour night sleep, plus whatever naps they need in the day, depending on their age. So I was going to play an audio clip for you, but technology is not our friend today. So we worked with a client earlier in the year. We're calling her Beverly. It's not her real name, but she's got a very high profile job over here, which is why she wanted her identity protected. But she was really good, and she kept a diary for us of her experience. So one of the things she felt was sort of how naive she had been going into her maternity leave, and how little sort of education there had been in her workplace. So she had booked off, I think, 5 or 6 months, and when she came to us, she was due to return to work in March. She came to us in February and she said, I'm on antidepressants, I'm struggling, I go to bed at 7 o'clock every night, I feel really down, I'm meant to be in work in a month and I cannot do it. And if it doesn't get any better, I'm going to have to rethink my career. Now this person is a real sort of high flyer and a really important role for our community. So we worked with her, and she was able to then go back to her work and say, I'll be back in May. So within 10 nights, we got her little 8-month-old sleeping through the night. And it's just totally changed things for her, because she can now function. She now gets to spend time with her partner, and she now has a clear head and feels like actually she can go and do the job that she has worked so hard to get to and that she's paid to do. Keep going, because we can't hear her. Keep going. One more. Okay. So Beverly's journey that I've just mentioned is a very typical journey. We have the baby, can't get it to sleep, and then we start to look for help. But these are also pain points that we might see. So quite often, I think employers might be a little bit guilty of thinking that this is an issue that should be resolved during maternity. But in all honesty, a lot of parents just survive throughout that period. When they come to actually return to work, that's when they think, I don't know how I'm going to do this. So like we just saw with Beverly, when the primary carer is returning to work, that is what we would call a pain point. I won't go through them all because you can read. But another one is the arrival of a newborn baby. So I don't know if any of you have got multiple children, but quite often people think, okay, I can do this with one. And then the second one's coming along, or the third one, and suddenly they just think, I can't do this with more than one. Here's the next one. So that's the impact it's having on your members of staff, or maybe even you if you have been in that boat. In terms of how that actually impacts your business, we've gathered some statistics together. Now these are UK statistics. So the annual cost to the economy for sleep deprivation alone is around £40 billion. And that works out at about £1,400 per employee. And that's through things like phoning in for days sick, drops in productivity, that kind of thing. We lose around 200,000 working days a year to sleep deprivation. We see a massive drop in productivity, and we see a big increase in errors and incidents and accidents at work. So just to give you some ideas of how serious those can be, all of these events are linked in some way to sleep deprivation. Now that is not to say it is the only cause, but reports have been written about each of these sort of catastrophes where there is an element of human error that has been attributed to sleep deprivation in one way or the other. And that might seem really extreme here today, because I'm guessing most of you don't own an oil rig or a space shuttle, unless you've got Jeff Bezos hiding in the room. But putting it into sort of our terms, anyone who is sleep deprived is going to have a drop in their ability to do things like mathematics, administrative skills, grammatical errors. When we look at people that either drive, operate machinery, fly planes, that kind of thing, there's about a 33% chance that if they're sleep deprived, they are going to have an accident. And that could be fatal, it might not be, but the risk is there. It's actually, sleep deprivation is actually worse than drink driving in many cases. Obviously, if you've drunk 3 bottles of vodka, not so, but being just over the limit is actually less of a risk than being sleep deprived. It has a significant anyone that does shift work, so whether that be in sort of engineering or in emergency, we do a lot of work with emergency service workers, anyone that already is on sort of altered sleep hours, and then you throw a child into the mix, they're really, really going to struggle. So what do? So we come into businesses and we give 2 types of presentation. One is aimed at managers and people that look after staff, and that's sort of an expanded version of what I've touched on today in terms of what you need to look out for, how it's going to impact people in work, and what you can do to support them. And then we also do presentations for parent employees as well to help them understand how to actually deal with these things. We do one-to-one tailored sleep plans with families, we do pre- and postnatal workshops, and we have a membership survey so that people on an ongoing basis, when their children go through different changes, know how to deal with it. I won't read all of these out, but fundamentally one of the things that we want to do is to try and help people return to work and stay in work, and if they are not sleeping, there is a big risk that that is not going to happen. You might have lost staff who, with the best intentions, said that they're going to return from maternity leave, and then it just so happens that they can't and they don't. You can offer our services as part of your enhanced maternity package, you do it as flexible benefits, you can buy it as gifts, or as part of your Wellbeing at Work programme. They're just the references. And that's our details. There's also a few business cards down here if anyone needs them.